Hello everyone, today we'll be discussing about the fundamental theorems of welfare. The so-called fundamental welfare theorems of economy tells us about the relation between market equilibrium and Pareto efficiency. There are two fundamental theorems of welfare economics. So first welfare theorem we have, the every Walrasian equilibria allocation is the Pareto efficient. And this also talks about the two important attributes, the complete market with no transaction cost, therefore each actor also having perfect information. It means we are talking about the perfect competitive market, and because we follow perfect competitive market, there is no transaction cost and they also have the perfect knowledge about the market. Then the second we have the firms would be here the price taker. So we are talking about a price taking behavior with no monopolies. This means the firms has to follow the industrial automatic mechanism of the price determination and easy entry and exit from a market. So both if we can consider here the two attributes, which is actually talking about the weak Pareto optimal. We'll come on that. What is this weak Pareto optimal? But first, these two particular features are mainly talking about the perfect competitive market. Furthermore, we can also talk about the first theorem states that the equilibrium will be fully Pareto optimal with the additional condition of local non-satiation. So these preferences are such that for any original bundle, if we have a closer another bundle, then we need to compare it and what we are preferring on that is what the original bundle. So here we need to understand the property of this indifference curve, which is also following the local non-satiation here. But above all, there is one important assumption that is what the weakly Pareto optimality. Now, to understand this, the equivalence of weak and a strong Pareto efficiency. If I do consider like this, suppose that preferences are continuous and monotonic, then an allocation is weakly Pareto efficient if and only if it is strongly Pareto efficient. It shows that the strong Pareto optimality consists also the weak Pareto optimality. But to understand this, if an allocation is strongly Pareto efficient, then it is certainly weakly Pareto efficient too. If you can't make one person better off without hurting someone else, you certainly can't make everyone better off. We need to show that if an allocation is weakly Pareto efficient, then it is strongly Pareto efficient. So we prove the logically equivalent claim that if an allocation is not strongly efficient, then it is not weakly efficient too. So the weak Pareto optimality is somewhere the part of the strong Pareto optimality too. But this weak Pareto optimality says that you can't make all persons better off at a particular time. So somewhere somebody has to sacrifice and compromise with the redistribution of the resources for enhancing the welfare of the weaker sections in the society. So all may not be equal at the same platform, or we cannot say that everybody is better off at one time. So we consider if somebody's worse off situation, then it is a weak Pareto optimality. Now, this definition is equivalent to the original definition of Walrasian equilibria, as long as the desirability assumption is satisfied. It means this definition allows us to neglect the possibility of free goods. As you all know, the free good assumption says the prices are equals to zero or less than zero, which is not applicable in that case. So that is why we have now the freedom to neglect this free good assumption here. Then there is the presence of invisible hand, which states that as long as each member of the economy maximizes utility or profit for himself, the best possible outcome for all members as a whole will emerge. This then seems to be in favor of market non-intervention when under ideal conditions, like perfect competitive market, since economists should ideally settle into a competitive equilibrium leading to a Pareto optimal result. Thus, we can say the Walrasian equilibria, which actually exist only in case of competitive equilibrium, and the competitive equilibrium exhaust all gains from the trade, resulting into the Pareto optimality. Now, to understand this, we'll go here. A competitive market will exhaust all of the gains from trade, an equilibrium set of competitive market will necessarily be Pareto efficient. Now, to understand this, the presence of monopoly practices here in this case will be taking an Edgeworth-Bowley box. Now we have here the purple indifference curve that is indicating the consumer A's indifference curve. And then we have the green indifference curve. This is indicating consumer B's indifference curve. We all know this is the exchange between consumer A and a consumer B, and we are talking about the good one and the good two here. And so allocation is being done between consumer A and a consumer B. So as per the Pareto optimality and efficiency condition of consumption efficiency says that the both indifference curve, consumer A's and the consumer B's indifference curve should follow or must follow tangency here, where the MRS of both commodities, good one and a good two, should be common between both of these. It means only in that case the consumption efficiency would arrive. But here what is happening? The agent A want to choose the prices to offer to B that make A as well off as possible. So he should find the point on B's offer curve where A has the highest utility. So it means A wants to gain the highest utility here. He wants to see himself as well off as. It means he wants to exhaust the gains which B could take in from the trade. So that is why what this A will try to do here, the A will follow the tangency with offer curve, which is the black. We can see the offer curve here for the B agent. So he would like to follow the tangency with this offer curve instead with this green indifference curve, which is reflecting the B's indifference curve. So this is not following the Pareto efficiency condition, which is about the consumption efficiency here. So this optimal choice will be characterized by tangency condition. As usual, A's indifference curve will now be tangent to the B's offer curve. If B's offer curve cut A's indifference curve, there would be some point on B's offer curve that A preferred, which is here commodity, or the point is X. So we can see this is the optimal point for A. So at this prices, that generates this budget line over here, and the budget line we can draw from this initial point of endowment, which is already have been defined. So this a red line will go from this particular point. So you see this budget line always passes through for what? When the A is indifference curve and the B is indifference curve, when both are tangent to each other, then only this budget slope passes through. But now what is happening? This is passes through the tangency of this black offer curve of B and this purple indifference curve of A. So that is why this is reaping all the benefits of the B over here, and A is in the as well of as possible situation. So that is why this A is extracting or exhausting all the gains from the trade, which is indicating the presence of monopoly condition in this case. Now this can be shown with the Pareto efficiency and optimality by choosing this X point through this endowment point by this A on particular curve of B's indifference curve. So it means person A chooses the point X on person B's indifference curve through the endowment that gives him the highest utility. Such a point must be Pareto efficient in this case. Now we'll discuss about the Pareto efficient allocation. Before moving on the proof of first welfare theorem of economics, we should talk about what is the Pareto efficient allocation. The allocation XY, if I'm taking as a feasible allocation, if aggregate holdings are compatible with the aggregate supply, it means we are following the assumption of Waller's equilibria, which says that excess demand must be zero in that case. It means by following competitive equilibrium, this says that the demand and supply curve both would intersect. This shows that the total demands by I individual and the total supply by this J producer, these both are showing or both are equal in the economy and showing the difference of these two equals to zero. If I also subtract the initial endowment in that case, then also the difference of these must be equals to 0. So that is indicating that excess demand function that is equals to 0 for acquiring the feasible allocation, for acquiring the situation of core, which is being indicated as Pareto efficient allocation. We already have discussed about the presence of core situation in the economy, which is we arrived for this core situation through the Waller's equilibria, where the two indifference curve would be tangent to each other, and the two offers curve from the initial endowment situation would intersect with each other through the budget line. So this situation core says that there is no other feasible allocation in the economy which is trying to block the previous situation or the situation of feasible allocation. So if I am finalizing this as a feasible allocation, no other any feasible allocation which is present in the economy or the coalition which is trying to block this situation. If this is the case, then there is no presence of the core. And if I would say that there is the presence of this x prime, y prime, this feasible allocation which is trying to block this previous feasible allocation, then the core situation would not arrive, and thereby this Pareto efficient allocation would not be there. Or we say if there is the coalition but will not block this XY, then we can consider yes, the core is non-empty in this case. But if there is feasible allocation which is present in the economy, then at least one individual would prefer this X prime over and above this X in the economy. So in that case, what will be the situation of Pareto efficient allocation and the existence of Waller's equilibria? This we would understand by the first welfare theorem by its proof. So we have the first feasible allocation, that is XYP, which is a Walrasian equilibrium here in this case. So we consider this XY is the Pareto efficient. So here in this situation, if we consider there is the presence of core in the economy and there is the one feasible allocation, which is we are getting through the Walrasian equilibria and also by intersection of the two offer curves through the initial endowment of two individuals in the economy. But if there is the presence of coalition, okay, which is trying to block the situation of XY, and this is what X prime and a Y prime be a Pareto dominating allocation. We call it a Pareto dominating allocation because we are considering this is Pareto efficient. And if some other situation, some other feasible allocation like coalition, if they are trying to block some situation, then we consider it is Pareto dominating too. Then since consumers are maximizing utility, we must have this situation. Now carefully see this expression. If one individual at least, if preferring this X prime over X, then the expression of the previous case would now be converting into this. The prices we will be considering here, this price is the similar price which is being followed in this core situation or the Pareto efficient situation. So the consumer this or the individual I has these previous prices only. So he is trying to buy this bundle X prime which is now on the given prices or the previous prices. It means now he is desiring this particular bundle over and above this X and Y. Okay. So this shows a desirability condition here. So in another words, X prime he is trying to avail on the previous prices is now not affordable to this case. The reason behind it, the initial endowment, value of initial endowment, and also the value of the supply, the sum of total supply, that is now lower than this bundle which he is trying to prefer. We can see here this condition would now change, this not be equals to 0. So definitely this allocation is not the Pareto efficient allocation now in this case. So if we would sum this case, the summation of this total demand is now greater than this total supply. So that is why this case is not showing the existence of Waller's equilibria, where we say the excess demand function must be equals to 0. And if we do consider the expression in a bit different way, if instead of taking this X prime or the total demand, we'll be taking only the total supply, where we are adding this the value of this initial endowment. So considering here the initial endowment only, or the value of initial endowment, we can add over here. So price would be multiplied by this total supply and the initial endowment. So total value of this supply would now be greater than this total value of this supply. So ultimately, or the finally, we would be getting this value is greater than this. So in that case, again, the excess demand function would now not be equals to 0. So if two expression we will hold together, then this is showing the inconsistent results, which is actually arriving on the conclusion that no correlation can block a Walrasian equilibrium allocation. This also implies that the core of any exchange economy is non-empty. It means the core xy is not blocked by this x prime and a y prime in this case, or it is not blocking the Walrasian equilibria in this case. Now we'll discuss about the second welfare theorem. Every Pareto efficient allocation can be supported as a Walrasian equilibrium if all agents have convex preferences. We all know about the convex preferences, which are well behaved and also strict monotonic in nature. Then there will be a set of prices such that each Pareto efficient allocation is a market equilibrium for an appropriate assignment of endowments. Means any efficient allocation can be attained by a competitive equilibrium given the market mechanism leading to redistribution. So this theorem is important because it allows for a separation of efficiency and distribution matters. Those supporting government intervention will ask for wealth redistribution policies. The second welfare theorem says that any Pareto efficient allocation can be obtained as an equilibrium provided one makes the right adjustment to income. Means this theorem is also ruling out externality, and also there is a need of local non-satiation as an assumption. We can see here the consumer A and the consumer B both are exchanging these commodity good 1 and the good 2 by their indifference curve, where they are following tangency through this budget line. This also shows their MRS for this good 1 and good 2 having the same slope. It means the bundle acts is optimally derived over here for the consumption of commodity X for the agent A and the agent B. So we can consider this particular point X as an Pareto efficient allocation. But why this is so? Because their indifference curves are like this. It means they are showing the convex preferences. It means moving towards this origin. Okay, the consumer A is revealing their choices and moving on the higher indifference curve. Similarly, here the consumer B would move in this direction and would reveal their preferences as higher choices, or the higher indifference curve shows the higher level of utility of this B's utility in that case. Now, according to these convex preferences, this X bundle is the optimal for consumer A and the consumer B. But what happens when the preferences are non-convex? In that case, the B's indifference curve is convex here, but we can see here the A's indifference curve, which are showing the non-convexity. This shows that the MRS of good 1 is declining here. Okay, the one commodity is declining here, but again the MRS is rising. So in that case, their choices and their preferences would change. So in such cases, the optimal bundle couldn't be determined. So we cannot consider this acts as an optimal because the preferences are non-convex, and also this shows the competitive market, the competitive equilibria is not being achievable, and thereby we are not able to find out the Pareto efficient position in this case. Now let's talk about the proof 1 in this case. This theorem says that if the behavioral assumption of our model are satisfied, then the market equilibrium is efficient. A market equilibrium is not necessarily optimal in any ethical sense, since the market equilibrium may be very unfair. The outcome depends entirely on the original distribution of endowments. What is needed is some further ethical criteria to choose among the efficient allocations. So we need to see what are the efficient allocations in this case, which is moving through Pareto efficient allocation towards to Wallace inequilibrium. Suppose that X is some Pareto efficient allocation. Okay, it means we are considering that is the situation of feasible allocation. Then there is some division E1, E2, and the n number of E, which is showing the aggregate endowments among the people. So that X is a Wallace equilibrium allocation for this endowment pattern. That is, any Pareto efficient allocation can be achieved as a competitive equilibrium after some rearrangement of people's endowment. So here the rearrangement word is important, which is indicating about the redistribution of income. So the Pareto efficient allocation can be achieved as a competitive equilibrium only when there is some rearrangement will be done. Now starting with this Pareto efficient allocation X, we need to find out the price and endowments to make this into a Walrasian equilibrium allocation. So for that, first of all, we look about the prices. We all know that the Walrasian equilibria and its assumption says that the prices always need to be taken as relative prices. And if it's relative, it means the one prices, the one optimal bundle of a price we are considering as a numeraire. So here also, if there are the two goods J and K, so we are assuming the one good as a numeraire, it means that is equals to 1. So the optimal bundle or the optimal prices for the J good would be equals to the utility of one individual about J good, which is the function of X1 bundle. Similarly here, the utility of one individual about the one good, which is a function of this X1 bundle. This also talks about that if it is Pareto efficient means the MARIS is also being satisfied. This also says that the sum of these utility of individual about the J good divided by sum of the utilities of this one good of all individuals I, that is equals to the individual one's utility for J good divided by individual one's utility about the one good. So it means for each person, each individual, we can reveal the utility or the condition of MRS like this. It means the marginal utility of good J divided by the marginal utility of K good, that is now equals to the prices of J divided by prices of K good. So this if condition is being satisfied, then we can say yes, this is the Pareto efficient allocation. That means the person I would demand the consumption bundle, this is Xi. If he face now prices, this is P star, on which his income is given, and his income is equals to P star multiplied by this Xi. So it means whatever he would spend on this, the entire income would now be equals to P star multiplied by this Xi. So based on his preferences for the good J and for the good K, and according to the optimal prices and the relative price analysis, he's revealing his preference on the optimal prices, which are P star now, and on the basis of that, he is revealing his preference for bundle Xi by following the Pareto efficient condition, which is the price vector that is equals to these utilities, okay, these marginal utilities. So following this condition, his entire expenditure would be equals to P star multiplied by Xi. So now we need to pick this endowment as any vector on the price line. This is the budget line. So this has to follow or satisfy the condition, the total expenditure that has to be equals to the value of endowment is owned by this consumer. So this total endowment has to spend on this P star multiplied by Xi or by this individual, whatever expenditure will be made on this bundle or to avail or consume this bundle, that has to be equals to this total endowment value. So P star multiplied by EI is equals to P star multiplied by Xi. If you'll cancel out this 2 P star together, so this gives you the value EI, the endowment, similar to your Xi. So this bundles demand and also this endowment, it means the supply of this, both will be equal. So according to the Walrasian equilibria and the existence of Walrasian equilibria, the competitive market says that the excess demand must be equals to zero. So both demand and supply should be or must be equals to each other. So a price vector P and a division of this aggregation of endowments have been found in this case, and which make the given Pareto efficient allocation X a Walrasian equilibrium allocation for the economy. So this is how the Pareto efficient allocation reaches to the Walrasian equilibrium allocation of the economy. Now we'll discuss about the second proof of it. Suppose we have the bundle X star and Y star, which is Pareto efficient allocation, and which each consumer holds strictly positive amounts of each good. And the preferences are convex, continuous, and strongly monotonic. And the production possibility, the firm's production possibility set is also convex in this case. The prices which we are taking, that is greater than equals to zero. Now we can have two situations. If individual I is preferring X prime over this X star, then he would be facing this situation on the given prices. It means this condition shows again the desirability assumption where this X prime is less affordable to this situation. Then we have here the Y prime J, which is in the YJ set, which is YJ production possibility set. Then our situation would be the value of this Y star would now be greater than equals to the value of this Y prime. Now, these two situations indicating one important assumption, that is local non-satiation. We know that in local non-satiation, the two bundles or the two different choices are arbitrarily close to each other, where the consumer can act as an indifferent preference between these two ones. Okay, and that is why we have an assumption of thin indifference curve, because in that case, the possibilities of a closest bundle would be less. But if there is a situation of this local non-satiation and it exists because of the strongly monotonic preferences are convex and well behaved, and just because of that the situation would occur, then what is the solution? The solution which is given over here, that is the hyperlane situation. If we follow the hyperlane theorem, which says that if both these sets are closed and at least one of them is compact, then there is a hyperlane in between them and even two parallel hyperlanes in between them separated by a gap. So in another version, we can say if both disjoint convex sets are open, then there is a hyperlane in between them, but not necessarily any gap. To understand this, we'll go for the next slide. Let P be the set of all aggregate preferred bundles. So we are considering P is the convex set and also considering that it includes the Pareto efficient allocation, which is X star and the Y star. This doesn't require inclusion of this initial endowment because there is no need of rearrangement of resources because this is already a Pareto efficient bundle. And then we will be taking a F, which is a feasible aggregate bundle, which is including this initial endowment and also the production possibility set, which is Yj inclusion of this Y prime 2. Now consider here this P and F bundle, which is actually talking about feasible set and Pareto efficient set, that is X star, Y star, and also X prime and a Y prime. So in that case, because these are locally non-satiated and also arbitrarily close to each other, the hyperlane theorem would solve the problem because in that case, they both will be taken on the different price lines and can be revealed the preferences now this way. That is the PZ prime is now greater than equals to PZ double prime, where Z prime for all Z prime is in now P convex set and Z double prime is in the F feasible set. To understand this situation, we have another argument, that is revealed preference argument. This is a very simple but somewhat indirect proof of the second welfare theorem that is based on a revealed preference argument and the existence of this theorem. Suppose we have this X star and a Y star is a Pareto efficient allocation, and that preferences are locally non-satiated, similar what we started in the previous slide. Suppose further that a competitive equilibrium exists from the initial endowment, where we have this situation that is equals to X star with profit share Tij that is equals to 0, and let it be given by new price vector and the X prime and a Y prime as a new bundle. Now we need to see here this Pareto efficient allocation which is given to us on the basis of this assumption that is locally non-satiated. Means consumer is neutral between this X star and a Y star and X prime and a Y prime. Now this new vector as a new price is now being added to here. Now on this new prices, we have a new set P prime, X prime and a Y prime, where the consumer is also indifferent between this P prime, X star and a Y star too. And that's indicating a competitive equilibrium here. The P vector, the change in the prices is indicating here changing in the redistribution, also the rearrangement which is happening in the society, in the economy. And then we can see, yes, the change in the income distribution, but not affecting this existence of the competitive equilibria and the existence of the Walrasian equilibrium, which is also indicating the Pareto efficient allocation here. Now to understand this, we'll go for the proof of it. Here the consumer is satisfying his X star choice with the consumer budget constraint, and is also revealing his choices indifferent between X prime and the X star. The X prime provides maximum utility on the budget set, and due to non-satiation assumption, each agent will satisfy his budget constraint with equality. The reason because the consumer is indifferent between these two, the value of this X prime and the value of this X star both would be equal in that case. So this shows the equality condition, and summing over these conditions in the agent 1 to n, we would be finding that the value of this sum of this Y prime and the sum of the initial endowment that is equals to P prime and the sum of this Y star and plus initial endowment. Now both would be equal. So cancelling out this common term, we would be finding that the value of this Y prime is equals to now value of this Y star on the new prices. It means after the change in the this redistribution of the economy and the rearrangement of the resources, we found that this situation is not affecting the Pareto efficient bundle, which is the X star and a Y star. So the existence of the competitive equilibria is also not getting affected. So Pareto efficient allocation is actually bringing here existence of the competitive equilibria and also the Walrasian equilibria in this case. So this argument shows that if a competitive equilibrium exists from a Pareto efficient allocation, then that Pareto efficient allocation is itself a competitive equilibrium. The remarks, the existence theorem, indicate that the only essential requirement for existence is continuity of the aggregate demand function. Continuity follows from either the convexity of individual preferences or the assumption of a large economy. So thus the second welfare theorem holds under the same circumstances. So here where the consumer is showing his indifference relationship between these two is also indicating both the sets are convex sets and also there they are revealing their preferences accordingly. So the second welfare theorem as proved requires the social planner to set the initial endowments to the desired final allocation. In a real economy, reallocating the initial endowment would be completely impractical. So much of the endowment would take the form of inalienable skills or human capital. However, the second fundamental theorem could be proved in a form in which the initial endowments are left intact. Instead, lump sum taxes are used to reset each household's budget set. Thus, the two theorems together are also useful in dealing with dynamic programming aimed at achieving Pareto optimality outcomes either through deterministic models or their stochastic counterparts. The two welfare theorems assure us that under the conditions of the theorems and the set of competitive equilibrium allocations and the set of Pareto optimal allocations coincide exactly. So that finding competitive equilibria gives us the set of solutions of optimizing problems that employ dynamic programming. The second welfare theorem is also encouraging since it indicates that under a fixed set of conditions, solution to dynamic programming models are supportable, and that is stable with both consumers and producers satisfied as competitive equilibria. Therefore, under these conditions, all optimizations can be found by finding competitive equilibria. Thank you.